So just like we mentioned, you've got the diaphragm at the top, but you've got to have a bottom, and that's the pelvic floor. So if we go back to our program here, we've got that diaphragm, and then as I zoom out and I focus right on down, you're going to see that nice pelvic floor in there. And I'm going to highlight a muscle here. And that's going to be our levator ani. And I'm going to turn this around a little bit. So we're going to zoom out, still have that highlighted muscle, turn around, and then we're going to go a little uncomfortable for some of us and upside down. And you're going to see there's that muscle again. It's right in that area. So that being the case, let's go ahead and make this a little bit more visible. So let's go ahead and get rid of glute max. Hide. Now you start to see a lot of the pelvic floor really come into play here. So you've got the levator ani, of which has two parts. This is one that's going to go from really the very end of the tailbone, the coccyx, and go over into the pelvis, which is what that bone is over off to the side here. As I tilt down though, there's another part that we need to be aware of, and that's going to be right here. So that is going to be the part that's actually around the anal sphincter. This is a opening, it's an orifice, and unfortunately that's also an area that we can lose pressure. Don't necessarily need to worry too much about incontinence on that side for most people, mostly because we have this nice, very strong sphincter on the other side. But if we flip around to the front, oftentimes on this side, be it female or male, you're going to have a little bit less strength, especially over on the female side. So let's hide some stuff here. We'll have normally a nice opening on that side. That's really the weakness, and this is oftentimes where female athletes can suffer from incontinence if they start to really go under load, such as what would be required with an overhead squat. Now, having weakness in some of these muscles down here really is going to work against you when you're trying to create a lot of force to help distribute load from the hands to the shoulders, to upper back, to the lower back, to the legs. It's a conduit. Now, a very simple exercise that you can do for this is just to contract the pelvic floor. So if you go in to use the restroom, while you're urinating, what I'd recommend you do is try to stop the flow of urination. And the way that you do that is by contracting the pelvic floor. Now, this is a very rudimentary exercise, and there's much more trained or highly trained individuals that can provide a more in-depth way of specifically addressing this. So I would recommend you possibly try a little bit of the Kegel exercise, which is what that contraction is to stop the flow of urination, and see if that helps out. But if you're having any issues, I would just pull the trigger and go to the link that I have inside of the website on this blog, in fact. But something to note also, though, that I just want to point out since it is already on here, is right here you've got that obturator internus. I'm going to tilt it again, and you'll see that that's part of the pelvic floor musculature. And this area where it's going, so I'm going to go ahead and point this out over here, this is the back of your hip. So you do have a direct connection between the force that you're able to put through your leg into that pelvic floor. And here, just to show you, that's it, right on the inside of that pelvic bone. So again, Kegels is a very basic exercise. You can try it. I recommend getting a pelvic floor specialist if that's unable to really get to the point where you can develop good strength in the bottom of that pelvic floor to allow you to counteract the pressure coming from the diaphragm in the front, as well as the abdominals on the side, completing that canister.